So this is something that probably should have gotten more coverage. Now, this is being reported by Ryan James Gerdusky. And now this guy is a conservative, but look at what he's reporting on here. Representative Alex Mooney, Republican of West Virginia, has drafted a resolution to give President Biden the ability to use the War Powers Act to deliver aid to Cuba and create a safe zone in the country. A safe zone in the country. Now, for those of you who don't know about this, and I don't blame you because this is not something that's widely known, but in order to create a safe zone, you would need, at the very least, air power, but you would probably also need boots on the ground. So he's effectively calling for an invasion of Cuba. That's what he's calling for. So the authorization for use of military force against Cuba, in their words, would be to ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid, and the goals would be, number one, ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid to the people of Cuba, including but not limited to food, water, and medicine. I'm going to get back to that in a second. Number two, create a safe zone in Cuba for the Cuban people to safely receive humanitarian aid. And number three, prevent humanitarian aid from being stolen by the Cuban government or its forces. Okay. So, to the first point, all you have to do is lift the embargo, and then they would get food, water, and medicine. That's all you have to do is just lift the embargo, and they'd be fine. Which almost goes to show you, they know that, but they just want to invade. And they just want to bomb, and they just want to overthrow the government. That's what it is. Because if you actually cared about, we need them to get food, water, and medicine, all you would do is lift the embargo. That's it. Instead, they want to create a safe zone, which requires deploying U.S. forces there to then give them food, water, and medicine. But so you want to keep the embargo in place, but have the U.S. invade and then give them food, water, and medicine? I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. And then, so get this. There's more facts about this that are mind-blowing. Congressional Republicans have also held separate virtual member-level meetings regarding how to respond to the protests in Cuba and have invited representatives of large corporations to them. What? Rick Scott's office coordinated a meeting on July 19th with members of Congress and representatives with Amazon, Facebook, Google, Verizon, and the Wireless Communications Trade Association. What the fuck? So you know what they're trying to get? They're trying to get them to, set up internet or something so that they could send the messages to the Cuban people. See how much support you have in America for you to overthrow the government? So please, go ahead and overthrow the government. Yes! It says a lot that when you have these government meetings about war, they're like, invite the corporations. We need the CEOs of the corporations in here. So who's really running the government? I mean, it seems to me like the corporations probably get the biggest say. Imagine coordinating with them. And I mean, you have to point out this fact when talking about Cuba. In 1960, they nationalized the oil industry. Now, the U.S. was getting Cuban oil. And then in the revolution, they kicked the U.S. out and they nationalized the oil. That's the thing that we've never been able to get over. So we pretend like it's about freedom and democracy or whatever. Are you kidding me? We backed a puppet dictator, Batista, there when we were there. So we didn't care about freedom and democracy. We wanted a puppet dictator to serve our interests. It's really about corporate hegemony. That's what it's about. And then, now you see, quite literally, they're doing meetings with corporate heads. Amazon's in on the meeting. Why is Amazon in on the meeting? Because they want to try to overthrow the government and then, Americanize and corporatize Cuba. That's the idea. So if anybody, it's hard to imagine that anybody actually buys the idea that we care about helping them. And then the final point I want to make is, guys, the person who drafted the resolution is a Republican from West Virginia. And he's concerned about Cubans. Hey, Dick, why not be concerned about West Virginians? It's one of the poorest states in the country. By the way, we'll cover a story in our next show, which is going to blow your mind. It's about, there's a pharmaceutical company that's in West Virginia. And it actually gives a decent number of people a good, middle-class life. An American pharmaceutical company in West Virginia that did phenomenal work and does phenomenal work. Those jobs are being outsourced. This asshole, instead of fighting the outsourcing, This asshole, instead of trying to get health care to the people in his state or higher wages to the people in his state, better jobs, instead of doing any of that, he's like, let's invade Cuba. They don't care about you. They don't represent you. These politicians are totally corrupt, and their minds are totally warped by establishment bullshit. I have no doubt that this guy thought, as he was drafting this is going to be popular and this is going to be awesome. I don't know if this idiot even knows about our embargo on them. All we have to do is lift the embargo and the Cuban people are better off. And actually, I know a lot of you guys probably know this, but these guys definitely don't know this. Now the SOS Cuba protests in Cuba have tapered off. Now, some of that I'm sure is because the government has cracked down on them, of course. But there's huge counter-protests now. Huge counter-protests. The media is not going to tell you that. Now, again, if you want to explain that and give the context, like, hey, they're authoritarian, they crack down on the SOS Cuba protest, the anti-government protest, sure, give all the nuance and all the caveats and hedges you want, but to not even talk about the fact that the counter-protests are now huge, that seems dishonest to me. Because it is dishonest. Because corporate media does the bidding of the establishment, because they are the establishment. So, I don't know why this didn't get more coverage. Credit to Ryan James Grodusky here. He did a really great job with this. Nobody really picked up on this, but we have Republicans drafting resolutions for war with Cuba, and nobody's even mentioning it. This is psychotic.